I'm here to talk about my little creation, a KDX200, 220 now, and a KX125 hybrid. I'm going to sell it, that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I think it's not a KX, it's not a KDX, it's a hybrid in between. It's unusual, it has a purpose in life, and I thought I'd just explain my idea of why I created this, so that if the right buyer buys it, because it's not a motocross bike, it's too old to be an enduro bike. This is turn of the century technology, good in its day, but so I want to make sure that whoever buys it understands what it is, can make up their own mind if it's for them or not. It's beyond my control. So I'm going to go through it. I've got it, and I've tagged everything to talk about. So I'll pick up the iPad and I'll just go over it. But this started off, I moved out of I love two-strokes. I moved out of two-strokes some time ago, pretty well when the world fell out of love with two-strokes. I did too. Not that I didn't love them, but the environment, all that sort of stuff. So that's it, no more two-strokes. And I build bikes, that's what I do. I just pick projects, usually each one's different. And I pick projects and I just down the rabbit hole and build something, enjoy it for a while, then on to the next thing, or a couple more things down the road, just hang on for a while, and eventually it doesn't become part of my life anymore. And that's unfortunate with this one. It's a beautiful bike. It still is, just we move on. I've lost my train of thought. So I was out of two-strokes, and I was just looking through Gumtree, whatever, just looking for a project, and I saw a KDX200, and for whatever reason, I have no idea, I knew I had to have it. I went straight there, bought it, got it home, and then, what the hell did I buy that for? Anyway, I did, and it evolved. And when you get a new project bike, you sort of do a lot of research, and these are a big thing in America. Like the KDX is a big thing in America, and the hybrids are an offshoot off that, where you get the KDX motor and you just put in a better frame. And this 2001 KX125 frame is one of those better frames you put them into. So it evolved. I feel like I didn't have a frame, just kept my eye, and bang, a frame come up. The guy wouldn't sell the motor, had nothing to do with selling the motor. Was happy to sell the frame, and the frame's a bit of an odd one, so, odd as in, just look at it, have you seen another one that looks like it? So, I'll go through all these parts and explain what they are, what I've done, how I've got there, and just talk about them, and you just will then know what the design philosophy is here, so you can make up your own mind. Is this for you? Okay, I'll pick it up and I'll go through them. And where to start? So I think I'll sit back in my chair, and I think I'll start at the beginning, at the front. Now that I like these sorts of things. Like they are. They look nice, so I got that. That's new old stock. I think that's what my note says, new old stock. And I don't know if it's original, but the bolt holes are definitely there for them, so, the one down there, the bolt holes are definitely there for them, so they're available. You can obviously used to be able to get them. The front rim is the KX125s are sort of round, they're a bit unusual. That's rim tape, but the 125 rims are kind of different. They're round and they may be painted, may not be, I don't know, but it came like it. The front wheel is near new. That's it. Oh, new bearings in there. While you're playing with it, you put new bearings and stuff like that. These normally have, and I still got them. I got a box of bits, 12-litre fuel tank, spare air cleaner, complete top end. Power valves, barrel, head, piston, complete top end, spare. Actually, that was the original one. I don't work on motors unless I've got the original there, so I've always got to back up. I can always go backwards. And what I've got here, yeah, these are normally different. They have a plastic thing around here, but I didn't like the look of it. This is more modern sort of look. It doesn't really want to go anywhere, so I made that up and out of nylon, and just it works. These, I've replaced the fork seals. Fork seals are all new, and you know they get leaky and stuff like that, so I didn't want that to happen, so I did that. Put those on there. That's just some cover. I bought it with that cover on there, so just nothing special. This down here, there is a sensor that's not standard. The KDXs have a standard sort of trail bike, cable operated speedo, but this one's got a vapor, so there's a sensor down there. Works perfectly fine. New pads, I had them part. New piston seals and not new pistons, but the seals and all that sort of stuff. Just while you do it, you do it properly. This livery, this Chevy Trucks Kawasaki livery. I'm just looking at my sign. Yeah, it's an American team factory racing livery. I thought I'll get another one, but I can't seem to find any. Anyway, I've crashed it and it's holding up. Moving on, what have I got? Oh, front mud guards once again. Front mud guards unusual design. I've not seen another one. If I break that one, I'd have to get more a standard one. But anyway, it seems to be holding up. It doesn't. These tanks, because it's a 200 motor now and a 125 frame, these are after tanks and considerably bigger. I don't think a 125 tanks would work in there. So they're a lot bigger, and that, no issue with cooling, Because I've got a vapor handlebar thing, that's where the temperature gauge is, and once again it takes a while to warm up because it's a bigger tank, but once you're there it's all good. I've got, I don't run a thermostat. There's a thermostat housing right there, and I've got a thermostat for it. I don't run one, and the flip side of that is it just takes longer to warm them up. And if you do that, you're all good. Now, getting the motor in the frame, I've got a note here. There is quite a few mounts. Hang on, I'll just turn this off and get oh no, you can see. That's the standard engine mount. Now, that standard engine mount, that's it, right? And I cut that down there, and that's the standard engine mount, and I had to move it out. So you can see that gap there where my finger's running in, that's the gap between what I had to extend it that way. So there's a plate on the other side, and it's welded on the inside here, on the other side's welded on the outside there, so it just moved it out. And look, I'm a really big believer in everything should be in a happy spot. The motor should just want to sit there, and as you do it up, it just tightens it up. Nothing flexes, nothing moves. That's where the motor wants to be. A big design philosophy in what I do is just check that everything's in its happy spot. Anyway, the top mounts, they mounted straight up. They didn't have to be changed. Where are they? Where are those top? I can't see. Look up, they're right there. That's the top mounts right there. All they needed, see that washer? There's a washer, so it's about 3mm. They just needed a spacer. Those top mounts are offset on the frame, standard. So they just needed a washer to line that up. Other than that, it didn't need any adjustment. It's the KDX and KX, obviously pretty similar, same family motor. The bottom ones, they didn't, where are they? They're down there somewhere. They didn't line up. So I just had to, exactly the same as what's standard, just cut it, grind it, make it smooth, move it over and do it again. That is just the mount for the bash plate down there. Okay, so we're moving on to, because I don't run any lights on this, I have the lighting coil, but I took it out. I didn't want to be generating power without the power going anywhere, because electrical things wear out. So it's just the way it's in the box. If you want to run lights, I think it's a 6-volt system. And with these modern LEDs, you could run a headlight, you could run a tail light. Oh, if I really had the inkling, I reckon I could get it registered, because it's getting SI very shortly, and KDXs could be registered. Join a vintage club and just get the thing registered. You know, just do all the white light works, as long as it works. That's all that matters. This one crank. The crank is relatively new. It had a crank in it that I first started running, which seemed to be okay, but I didn't know the age, so therefore I just never trust. You don't know. You know, you only know what you fix. So at the time, I had a go at building my own crank, and even though with the dial gauge it measured right, it didn't feel right. So I took that out, got another one professionally made, and that's in there and runs sweet. So the crank is relatively new. I can't tell you, I don't have an hour meter, but it's, well, I do, I guess, but I don't. It's relatively new. It runs a KDX wiring loom. So the wiring loom is all there. It's KDX, like all the connections are under the seat and stuff like that for your old regulator or whatever it is, alternator, whatever, not alternator, anyway, for the power. And it runs up the top up there, and it's just not connected. So, but it runs the KDX wiring loom. And now there's I'll just wind with the simple stuff to start off with. These, I'll just put that on there because they grip really nicely on your feet. So I made these, I've sort of read about them and how they work, and they do work. Like you just hook your boots in there, and they just sort of hold your legs nicely stable. This is a design that I got off a KTM side stand, and I liked it. My friend had one, I liked it. And so I made it, and it works. But it's not designed to put your weight on. It's just designed to, hold the bike up. Who wants to find a tree all the time? So it works, holds itself in place. It doesn't need the KDX loopy thing, the plastic rubber thing they have there. Now that bar is this rib off the old donor KDX frame. So I took that off, put a foot on it, made all the mounts up, and that's it there. This here wouldn't do it because this is a KX frame, and the KX, to make them lighter, are aluminium. So that's steel, the KDX is steel, the KX is aluminium. So this here, just that plastic cover, I just like to get those things. My theory is that get them while they're available, so get a nice new one, and that way it was good for another 50 years or whatever. Okay, the motor. As I said, I have a complete spare barrel, it's the one that come off it. It's in good serviceable condition. I got another barrel and ported it and done stuff to it and sent stuff away, and re-nickel sealed as well. So the barrel is good and new. Now, if you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see a picture of a barrel that's been ported, and that's the barrel. That's the ported barrel. The other barrel is relatively stock, cleaned up, but just basically stock. So the barrel is ported and new. What have I got here? Times new. Oh, I don't even know what I've written there. Oh, it's a 220 piston. They come out with either 200s or 220s. I don't know if the 220s were ever sold in Australia, but you can certainly get parts from them. They're just a bigger piston, aftermarket forged piston. So that's that. This here, in the process of doing up, and those American forums where these are a thing, these motors are a thing, I was reading about how the Kips valve did better, because this is relatively small compared to the KXs. So the Kips valves did better if you put a spacer in there, and that extended it out, and it worked better in a different rev range. And that's just a void inside there. There's no mechanical, it's just a void, and the hole goes through the expansion chamber.
And how that works is that it works a bit like a boost bottle. You know, the old motorbikes used to have it on the just on the top there left a boost bottle, so that when the flow comes in, it goes in, then the piston comes down, the flow wants to go back, the reed's closed to stop that, but this coming flow clashes with the two that way and that way, so this charge wants to go somewhere, so they shoot it up the boost bottle, then the piston starts coming up, and in that time reverberates. If you got it set up right, it reverberates back down, all of a sudden you got pressure and it shoots it back in there as well as a fresh load, so you get less blowback and double fueling, and just makes it work better. So that sort of works the same principle, so that the pulse comes out, hits the back of the resonating cutting back cone, comes back, and as the piston closes off, this shoots into here, bounces, goes back, and then woof out with the next load. So it just helps smoothen things out. But like all these things, they tend to work well in a rev range because that's a set size. So I made two, like one's 10mm, one's 5mm, not knowing what size I wanted. I would just, you know, try 5, try 15, try 10, try 15. So I went straight to the 15. Might as well, if you're going to test something, test it to the extreme that you've got, see how it goes, and then make your decision when you go back. But it worked off the bat. It worked, just worked. So I never did go back. That's just how I set it up, and I've never changed it. You may be better now, because I have detuned the motor a little bit. Right, and I'll talk about what's going on here, but that motor is extremely happy, and with what I got going on here, it was dangerously happy. So I had to pull it back a bit. I just pull it back a little bit from where it was, just then broaden the power out a little bit, and I did that. And here's one of my tags. Inside there, see that there? That's a 20mm spacer plate. Normally the expansion chamber would go straight in the head there, but I had to build a spacer, so expansion chamber goes in that spacer goes in the head, all O-rings and all that sort of stuff, all sealed up, no problems. What I'm trying to do there is I was trying to make the pipe a little bit longer because it just got too vicious on the top end. It was too sharp. It was, if I'm explaining this, if you're riding along and you hold the throttle on just enough to get, the bottom end torque is great. You don't need the power band, but if you just ride it and it gets up to 6 grand, but you don't move the throttle, just hold it still, it goes through the 6 grand, power valves open up, the power valves open up to 6 grand, and the motor just takes off on its own. You don't have to feed it more fuel, it just goes, It's one of those motors that if you give it to it, you can instantly spin the wheel whenever you want. But as soon as you do, you've got to back it off. You can't hold it pinned. It's a very, very willing motor. Exactly what I want. But you've got to, I've detuned it a bit. I've taken it back from that edge. And when I get around the other side, I'll explain some of the reason for all that. RB head. This motor head was sent to America for those guys to breathe on it. I'll have a look. It's written on the back here. RB Designs. Look it up. It's been sent off. That's an RB head. The other head's completely standard. That's an RB head, and that is an RB carburetor as well. And I'll just turn this off for a second. I'll get a tool. Let me explain what an RB carburetor is. I'm just going to sit there somewhere solid. That's a standard carburetor, 36mm or something. I'm not sure. I don't remember. That's a standard carburetor. And what RB do? They put a flat plate halfway through there, a flat plate to block off that top and the bottom. And there's just a flat plate that sits in there like that. And what that does, that flat plate goes right up flush to the slide. There's another section inside here that they unbolt it and they open it up a little bit and do stuff like that, and then this comes in a much more play than what it normally would do. But anyway, I'll take this off here when I'm talking about that. What the RB carby is all about is, by having a flat plate in there, you imagine the air mixture's coming in, it's going underneath the slide, picking up the fuel from the venturi there, and then it's going into a big void normally. Oh, it's a 36mm hole. It may not be, the slide might be down, but all of a sudden it goes in a big void and the fuel drops out and loses speed. But if you have a flat plate in there, it acts like a smaller carburetor. And you know, for torque you have small carburetors, for top end you have big carburetors. Well, by having a flat plate, the fuel goes under, but it doesn't open up into such a big void, and it just keeps shooting along. It keeps the speed up, it keeps the atomization better, it doesn't drop out in the big drops, so you get a nicer vapor. Vapor makes power, drops does nothing. So it's extremely efficient. And with a V-force reblock, which is already sort of at two halves, one melds into the other and just shoots in there. That motor, since when I first bought it, I used to go in the bush and we used to do long runs. And I had a long range tank. I got the tank and made it up, it all fits. And I got a long range tank, and that was all good, but once I got that RB carby, the standard tank, it was just great fuel economy. The thing runs super efficient, very clean, never messes up with bogging down and stuff like that. Really nicely done. So the carby's been sent to American redone, the head's been sent to American redone. So much so now that they get a new slide and all that sort of stuff they give you with it, that depending on the weather, you just have to move it between there and there, you know, just a bit further. And that's, well, you might start off in the morning and you screw it in, it's going to make it richer, you screw it out, it's going to make it leaner. So in the morning when it's cold, you might have it down there, and as it warms up, you warm it up. But you don't really have to, but it just, you know, if you're finicky, that's all you need to do. You don't need to rejet it, you don't need to do nothing. But the thing is just really nice setup. That flat plate is machined into it. It works an absolute treat. This, as I said, it's an extremely happy motor, and when I got it, I had to gear the thing up 3 times. I don't know what it started with, but I had to go bigger on the rear sprockets, bigger on the front sprockets, because when you don't have to get up to the power band. You can be right along and just whack and woof off you straight into the power band, and the thing would just spin. It was useless power. It wasn't until I geared it up that you actually got some drive from the gears. It's just useless. I've on this motor have clocked 100 kilometres an hour on the data logger on the vapor. When you get home, you have a look. All right, what have I done? 100 kilometres an hour. So it's 100 kilometres an hour. Oh, sorry, 160 kilometres. It's a 100 mile an hour bike, and that's just through. I have to gear it up to get some drive out of the thing. So otherwise, it's just useless. It's an experience to have useless wheel spin. Anyway. So that's the motor largely talked about. I think I pretty well got that. Oops, I just sit there. Pretty well got that. Nope. Now, when I got it, the frame was powder coated. I'm not a big fan of powder. I've had other things powder coated. Powder coated is a thicker paint. Yeah, it looks nice, it's durable and all that sort of stuff. But it can be a little stiff, so I'm a bit dubious about powder coating. So I really, all the time, checking the frame to see if it cracks in the joints, any sort of flexing, does it get a little minute crack, and I've detected nothing. So, and I guess that's because this is ultimately a motocross frame, like it's going to jump off the same jumps that a 250 or whatever jumps off, so it's just a strong frame, and I've just detected no issue with it. So I don't think they're meant to be black. I think they're meant to be that green, but anyway, it's been powder coated, and I see no issue. And where I did that, I just sanded it all back, put foil around here when the guy welded up in place, and then just black enamel paint, and the two play happily with each other. You can't, just black enamel paint, it works well. So it's a powder coat frame. I didn't do that. I bought it like that, and I just looked after it. Now it's a KDX airbox, so it's bigger. Sorry, KX airbox, so it's bigger. KX boot. The whole lot fits nice. I don't need anything special, but I did have to undo it, and I'll show you on the other side and just twist this slightly and just move it slightly to make that line up. I'm once again, I'm a big believer in everything being in its happy spot, and if I was to undo those clamps, that's where the carby wants to sit. I've just tightened the clamps. So to do that, I made this fit this to where that wanted to be. So it's all happy now. There's no pressure on anything. I've not got any pressure on this. I don't have any pressure on that. That's where it lives. So that's sort of working. The chain changed. Just I wax my chains. The chain's new. It's stiff still, so there's no issue there. This here is, oh, by the way, the rear engine mount. The KXs have a bigger axle, swing arm bolt that goes through there, so I had to get it machined out. It's only like 2 mil bigger, and there's plenty of meat on there. It was no big deal, but I'm just saying that motor now has been drilled out on the back to fit the KX125 frame. So there's no, you'd have to bush it if you ever wanted to put it back in a KDX frame. Other than that, the motor will slip back in a KDX, but you have to do something about that. Moving on. Now, I bought this with this damage. Obviously, it's been damaged at some stage. A bit like that, probably a bit deeper. If you're particularly fussy about it, you could fill down with the weld and polish it back, but I haven't bothered. I look after the bike, but I'm not too finicky. This is a bike to be used. You know, I'm older. I'm over 60 now, and I was in my 50s when I built this bike, and I wanted a trail bike a trail bike is what I wanted, because I've been paid. I was a jackaroo for a while. I've been paid to ride motorbikes, but I'm not a motocrosser. I'm not an enduro rider. I'm a trail bike rider, and I wanted a trail bike that was light, go anywhere, and give me no hassles, and be fun to ride. So I've created what I've created, and it does the job perfectly. I've lowered the little footy things down there. I'm used to be 6'1", probably 6 now. And that's just dropped the seat by 20 mil. It's just a matter of the little dog bones there. Moving that 5 mil drops that by 20 mil, and then you reset your sag and stuff like that. So it just dropped a little bit, so I can just, with my feet flat-footed easily, you know, and I'm comfortable then in the bush. Probably a bit old school. I like to be able to, you know, if you're going up a hill, and it's got a Rekluse clutch on it. If you're going up a really tricky hill that you know you don't have the skill to go up, you just drive the thing with a Rekluse clutch and just paddle with your feet on the side, and just the more you start slipping the clutch and no wheel spin, just drive up the hill where everyone was having all sorts of trouble and you have none at all. So the Rekluse clutch on the other side makes you look good, and it's torquey motor and all that sort of stuff. So the motor. Bottom end power, the KDXs were okay, but this is a KDX sharpened up and made more lively. So the bottom end is just that bit crisper, a bit more lively, just a bit more than what a KDX would have. But the top end is definitely like a 125 two-stroke. It is a peaky top end. You don't need it. I could happily ride all day just on the bottom end. But if you ever just, your bush opens up and you give it a squirt, the theory is I've got to clean the motor. You don't have to clean it at all. It runs super efficiently, but just give it a squirt. It's just fun. New blocks in there, so chain guides. The sprocket is aluminium and then steel. That's just running on the blocks in there. Steel, aluminium, and the teeth are all good in fat, so that's all good. So the front teeth are all good as well. And I've got spare sprockets from when I've been shrinking and going bigger. The wheel, I have to change this wheel. I found a split in it. Not there, it's around there somewhere. So the tyre is perfectly good, but I've got to change it. The rear rim, the KDX has come out with a 19-inch rear rim, but as I understand it, they're a bit small. They're all the same size outside, but that makes them lower in the profile, and you could get pinch flats and stuff like that by going to an 18-inch rim You got more sidewall, much better for enduro riding and trail bike riding than what a motocross rear wheel is. So I've relaced that, and while I was at it, I put stainless steel spokes and new bearings and all that sort of stuff. So it's a enduro size back wheel, but I use the KDX hub, you know, new bearings and all that. So it's just resized to be more trail bike. It's a standard size. It's just trail bike sizes. That was the other one. I put a pull tug on here. It just goes round and round the subframe, and you know, if you need to pull it out of some bloody thing. This here, it's a KDX toolbox. It has all my. It comes with it. It comes with a Leatherman, toolbox, tools, cable ties, a couple of muesli bars, spark plug, all that sort of stuff. Nothing to report underneath there. That's all pretty good. Just giving you a view. So what's that down there? Is that dirt? No, that's just blocked off. It's a bung. I've got one rim lock in there, not two rim locks. Going around to this side, up here, I have this little pipe on it here. That is because these motors are noisy, especially if they're a bit tuned. The motors are sharp, and I've got it ringing in my ears already from too many sharp two-strokes in my life. So I just wanted to make it quieter, so that just flicks the noise down, you know. Just a bung. Oh, by the way, I put the bung in there. If you ever try and start it with that and you forget to take the bung out, you'll get one tune, and it won't start thereafter because it's just all full of exhaust gas. So if you ever just kick it over and get one tune and then nothing thereafter, it's because you've got there and you've forgotten to take the bung out. When I first got the bike, I repacked this. You know, the old stuff, you repacked it. And then sometime later, considerably later, I thought, oh, I'll better repack it again, because I have had two strokes, they burn out and stuff like that. So, but it was nowhere at all. It was just, it really didn't move. So I've repacked it again with fresh stuff, and I really needn't have bothered. So just don't bother. You just don't need to. Hang on, I'm just going to move this bike so I can get my chair around there. It's getting close to wanting new pads. I've got some spare pads in my box that I use, and I was experimenting with different pad materials. So I've got another set in the box that look pretty good, but these are getting down. You can swap them all the time you want. They won't wear out in a hurry. Depends how heavy you are, I guess. So, this plastic cover is a KDX thing. I know this is a KX. It's a KX caliper, but they still obviously use them for different models. So I put that. I like those sorts of little things on the bikes. They just, I don't know. It's the little things like that that make them look complete. So I've done that. This down here, just to say that yeah, I've lowered it, and I put new roller needle bearings inside there. This here, there is a that's the airbox on the other side. When I got it, it had a hole in the airbox there. I'll just turn that up if I can. It had a hole in the airbox there, so obviously whoever previously this had broken and burnt through and shooting exhaust gas onto there. So that's an aluminium plate that's been Sikaflexed on there. You can put bolts in there, but it just Sikaflexed. It's not going anywhere. There's no pressure on it. You know, if anything, it's a vacuum behind it on the other side. So it's fine. But that's proper industrial high temperature silicon pipe now. So that's all good. And I've got another piece of that in the spare toolbox. But you buy longer pieces, industrial stuff. This here, I had to slightly cut and replace that there. That it didn't quite fit with the it's a KDX expansion chamber and it's a KX frame. It's just slightly out, so I had to change that. And look, once again, back to my design philosophy of a happy spot. Just get that happening. Of a happy spot is that expansion chamber, it's sitting where it wants to sit. The big trick with two strokes is never ever bolt a expansion chamber down solid. It's got to be rubber mounted, and it's got to be Oops. Yeah, it's got to be where it wants to sit, you know. Like there's a mount down there, there's a mount. It is where it wants to sit. It's not under any pressure. This is where it's happy. That's where it gets bolted down. Airbox. I've got a funnel web. I think that's what it says. Yeah, I've got a funnel web air filter in there, and I've got the old original type of spare filter as well. This Kickstarter here, it's a little bit worn. So that's just a little bit down instead of being up, you know. That would be nicer. So I just got a bit of fuel hose, put a cable tie in, and that's enough. Enough for my boots not to want to slip off. Maybe a little bit of welding there would, you know, to bring it up, build it back up again, but it seems to work. This Rekluse clutch. I have in the box of parts around there, I have all the other stuff that comes with a Rekluse clutch, the variations on springs. I still have the original clutch, and they don't make a Rekluse clutch for a KX200. Well, they didn't then, maybe they do now, but they... This motor is a 97 model motor which ran, I think, from 96 or 95, 96 through to 2005 when they just stopped bringing these motors in, bikes into Australia. So it was a 10-year run on these motors, and there was an evolution of motors before this, and this was the last evolution, and they never did change. They sort of worked all the bugs out of it, and there was just a good solid little motor thereafter. So this motor is up to 2005. Whenever they stopped bringing them into Australia, that's what this modern motor is. Anyway, I'll get back to the Rekluse clutch. They don't make a Rekluse clutch for this, but what they do make is a Rekluse clutch for a YZ125, and the box, you know, the Rekluse box has all the information on what model it is. And all you have to do is you run the KX inner basket and the YZ outer basket, I think I got that the right way. Yeah, and a little bit of machining on the back edge to make it miss one of the gears in there, and a bit of work, and the two just come together, and they work as if they standard, but it is a YZ outer with the outer fingers and a KDX inner. But the two, once you've made the work and done the machine work, it's just a clutch. And you might say, well, that's only a 125 clutch, which I was dubious about, but these 125s back in their day, back in the 1990s, 2000s, they were making the 125s was making 41 horsepower. That's more horsepower than what the KDX made. I think they were 37. So the clutch is certainly made from a motor that runs more horsepower than what this ever did. So there's no issue about matching that. Because of I'm me, I've extended that there just to make the clutch lighter. You don't use the clutch much anymore. You can. You if a stranger hopped on this bike, you probably wouldn't even know it had a Rekluse clutch, but I made it so it's just lighter. I made this. Goes down around there and protects it all nicely. And that just pulls off, you know, it's not even bolted on, it's just a few cable ties, and it holds itself in place just through shape. And that was that talk about the hangers, because this didn't quite line up. There's the bracket for the hangers, see, that doesn't quite line up. It would have done, probably down here, it did, but then when I moved it forward 20mm, I had to make another bracket to move the whole thing forward 20mm. And that's okay. In here, that good quality high heat pipe is just a little bit longer now, and that's why I've got spares. So it's all good, and the bottom one is just all made like that as well. This bash plate, homemade bash plate, it's all shaped. It's all shaped to fit that bike, and extended down the bottom a little bit longer, so that it protects the rear shock absorber stuff there nicely. And also, I didn't realise this, but if you make a bash plate of aluminium, they radiate a lot of noise up. So in the middle there, between the frame, I've got that same sort of sound deadener that I'll talk about in a second, just to take the vibration out of it and just sound deaden it nicely, and it worked. So I'm coming around the front here. Now, what's going on here, you might ask? Oh, which way is better? This way. A big pile of tape on my leg. Well, when I first got this bike, it was loud. It was just, the noise was transmitted forward. Like, the standard KDX expansion chamber is a horrible water pipe affair. Double skinned, very small, very thick, and didn't work very well, and it didn't last long with me. This is a FMF Gold Series pipe. That looks like rust, but it's not, and I'll explain that in a second. A Gold Series pipe, is that what I've got on there? Gold Series. And you can get expansion chambers for the KDXs in sort of 3 modes. Bottom end, mid-range, top end. I don't really remember, I think it's mid-range to top end, this one. Anyway, it was just loud, ting, 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 real loud, and this helped, but, so I got sound deadener, and put sound deadener on it, and then just clamped it on there, and I had it all the way up here, and it went all the way to the very end. And it quieted everything down, but it had a other consequence, and what that consequence was that when you wrap a pipe, I've learnt this now, when you wrap a pipe, it makes it hot, it keeps the heat inside, and the air pulses, the pulses that travel up back there are just so much faster when the pipe is hot. It's like when the people wrap pipes on motorbikes and stuff like that, and it just shoots the exhaust out. Well, man, did that pull the top end right up. It was extremely sharp motor and quite vicious. So I took it back off again, I extended it back out. All my other work had made it a really strong motor anyway, so I took it back off to about here and put the spacer in there, and that lowered the rev range back down again, broadened it out a bit more, made it more drivable again, but you know, just overall the package where it is now, it's not its peak, it's detuned, but it's still nice, you know. Okay, moving up now. Well, because I like to go for, you know, bush rides, I'm not a motocross person, that is just a water bottle, just cable tied on there, no big deal. Because this is a KX125 frame, I don't know, but the body is kind of just a little bit smaller, and to make it, as I said, I'm 6'1", so I've got these bar risers and lent them forward, and that has just opened up the cockpit for me, and just made it, my long arms, just made it comfortable. If you don't like it, you know, just put it back to here again. But while I was at it, I then smoothed this all out, but there's all sharp edges, and it didn't look nice, and so I've made it all nice and round, and all this nice and round for the bark busters. Normally it's square, and I've just sort of rounded everything off and made it all look nice. This is a Vapor. Now that's protected. I made this case for it just to protect it from any barks and sticks and stones and whatever. But I haven't used this bike for at least a year and a half, so the battery in there is dead, and it just takes 2 CR2035 batteries stacked on top of each other, and it runs for about a year before the batteries just run out. But it does have facility, it does have a wire on the back where you can just plug power in, as long as it's 3 volts or more, it'll run off the power. But because I've taken the lighting coil out, I don't have the power, so I've been running it on batteries, and that's all fine. But you can run it on power if you decide to put lights on it and stuff like that, and the whole lot will run just fine. Bleed valves, I put the bleed valves on it because I read about them somewhere, and oh, why not? Just why not? This, I'm kind of fussy about my brakes, and I wasn't happy with the pull on, and I'll just go around while you're at it, doing it, I can have a look. I wasn't happy with the feel of the standard KX brakes, sorry. So I got, this is off a CR125, and they're basically the same, but it's just a little bit better. Plus there's a nice little booty on there, just makes it all more refined, and the feelings are just a little bit nicer. This is only here. Normally that would tuck down there, but long time storage. I just plug it off. I put a fuel conditioner in the fuel to stop it from going off, and just set it there. I've drained it now for shipping, you know, wherever a bike's going to go. But normally I'd keep it there with long life fuel in there. So that's it. That's the bike. Let me do an unboxing of this. Hang on, just let me get set up. Okay, now we go for this. Now first off, just a spare air cleaner. The 12 litre tank. Don't need it anymore. That motor's so efficient, it's just as good as that. This is the barrel, complete, in good serviceable condition. Cleaned up a little bit, but not ported, just cleaned up. And I'd be happy with using that again. I've got my other one and it's better. It's all standard head design, just the whole thing, all power valves there, the whole, just complete. That'd be worth a few bucks to find one of those. Now, what's in the box? Every bike gets a box. Every one of my bikes gets a box. Okay, so we've got a sprocket, KDX manual, had the motor part a few times, all spare gaskets and stuff like that. Cables, lighting coil, I think that is, or brake pads on the other. Another spare piston, heavy, the standard clutch and the clutch basket, so you could just put the old clutch complete back on again. There's a love letter in there to me saying something, God knows what it is. Spare reed cages, just lots of bits and pieces in there. 125 radiator, the cruise clutch, all the templates from the parts I made. You know, you make a cardboard template before you make something. Another piston. And that's pretty well it, bits and pieces. And another, here's the dog bones, the standard ones. And just stuff, spare coils, spare all sorts of, there's another, just spare clutch coils, just stuff. Every bike gets a box, so that's what I've got collected. Anyway, just one last thing, I'll set this up again. Okay, this is, thanks for the video. I've enjoyed making the video. It's a nice little send off for the bike. If you're interested, what is the market that I think this is for? Someone like me that wants an old school bike, light, go anywhere, really fun motor, make your limited skills look good by Rekluse clutch, and it's soft, plush ride. I'm no good at whoops, I never did learn them. So I ride it, and it's just, just a nice bike. Fits me. I'm 6 foot now, I guess. Arm lengths are all good, so she's ready to go. Nice bike, the right person, right bike for you. Okay, thank you.